Welcome to today's episode of the Mindset Mentor Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Dial. Today, we're going to be talking about how to find your purpose. And I understand that is a very complex topic that requires days and days and months and years to probably figure out. But really what I want to do is I want to try to help you realign who you are and discover your purpose and what would really fulfill you in your life. And find out where you're living out of alignment, where you're in alignment. And here's what I found. I've worked with, I've been in this industry. I started really young in the self-development industry. I started when I was 19, about to turn 20 years old. I'm now 37 years old. So I started 17 years ago. And I've worked with some very, very high-performing people. I've worked with people who are multimillionaires, 100 millionaires. I've worked with billionaires. I've worked with people who have won the NFL Super Bowl. I've worked with many different people. I've also worked with like average everyday person who makes 50 grand a year, 20 grand a year. I've worked with CEOs. I've worked with a lot of different people. And what I found is this, is that if you're a high achiever, if you're the type of person who wants to achieve, I found that a lot of people who achieve from a place of woundedness, I could say. And let me explain it myself, right? And what I have found is that when I was younger, I was always searching to make money and be successful from a place of scarcity, from a place of safety, from a place of security. But there was also a piece of me that was trying to prove my worth to my father. Even though he had died years and years and years before, I felt like, when I was younger, I wasn't fully accepted by my father simply because he was an alcoholic. And my subconscious was saying, you know what, Rob, your father chose alcohol over you. And so I think I subconsciously built, well, I need to prove myself. I need to prove myself. I need to prove myself. Now I know consciously that I'm not going to prove my worth to my dad because he's dead. And there's really no reason to. But it doesn't mean that I wasn't subconsciously driven to try to achieve. And then I realized once I got to a place of quote unquote success, that it really didn't do anything for me. And so what happened was the journey kind of happened where I was, this is back in 2014, 2015. I was young, about 27 years old. I was making about $250,000 a year. I was working a couple hours a day for a company in sales. I worked from home at that time. And I had just bought a new house and I had a girlfriend and it was a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house, and it was just me and her that lived in this house, and everything seemed perfect. I was able to take some vacations. I took my mom on vacation to Italy and all of these things. And from the outside looking in, it looked like success. People would deem as like, that guy is getting a piece of the American dream. But I was fucking miserable. Why? I had gone and followed this path that I was told that I was supposed to go. Like society says go this way. And I thought that this is what would make me happy. And I got to this point where I was just not happy. I didn't feel fulfilled in any sort of way. What I was doing was not fulfilling. I felt like I was just selling my soul to a company that didn't give a shit about me and wasn't doing anything good in the world. And so I had to kind of go and rediscover, like, who am I? What do I truly want? And that's how I got onto this podcast and doing what I do now, was because I was like, what do I truly want? I was at an event and it was December of 2014. And I had discovered that what I truly want to do is help people. And I had learned a lot from 2006 to 2014 about myself, personal development. I had, trained over 2,000 sales reps. And the thing that I really liked the most was teaching people and helping people grow and helping people learn, not just make money as a salesperson, but like growing that person. Because I felt like a lot of the self-development stuff that I had learned helped me and I wanted to teach other people. And I was very passionate about it. And so in December of 2014, I was like, I need to figure out some sort of way to help people. I felt obligated to teach the stuff that I had known that helped me out a lot. And so it took me 8 months until I finally launched this podcast. I had a bunch of different ideas, what would work, what didn't work, all this stuff. And I finally got to the point that I had taken unconscious action and created a life that was out of alignment with my true self and my true purpose, right? It looked good, but it didn't feel good. And it's like Tony Robbins always says, he says, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. Success is what the world sees. Fulfillment is what your heart feels. The world saw success. I felt miserable. So I started thinking about it and I was like, I've unconsciously built this life that I didn't even actually want. I don't want to work for somebody else. And even if I did want to work for someone else, it wasn't with that company. I wanted to do something different. And so I hadn't seen that I was unconsciously building a life based off of what I thought I was supposed to do. And most people create their life unconsciously. And they don't know until they bring the unconscious to the conscious so they can make a change consciously that they want to in their life. Now, for some people, it might be a massive change. It might be, I need to completely change every part of my life. My relationship is complete shit. My business or my career is complete shit. And they might redo the entire thing. For other people, it might be little teeny tiny adjustments to realign themselves. So like I work with a lot of people who are very successful business owners. And when I say alignment, it doesn't mean shut down your entire business and start a new business. Sometimes it means, can we change the alignment of your business so it's not just this money-making machine, but it feels the way that you want it to feel, whatever that means, whether that's helping the world, helping your employees, giving them piece of the company so that they can change their lives. And then they start working harder and it becomes more successful because they feel like they have ownership in it, whatever it might be. But people don't realize that they've created their life unconsciously. Really what it comes back to is how can we take a step back and start to create a life consciously? And find all of the things in your life that are in alignment and find all of the things in your life that are not in alignment and find what serves you and what no longer serves you and what needs to change. You don't need to start over everywhere. Sometimes it's just those simple adjustments. And those simple adjustments might be in your relationship. You know, if you're married and you're like, I don't feel aligned in my marriage, it doesn't mean that you need a new marriage. It means that maybe you need to figure out what is it you truly want. And then you need to communicate that with your spouse. You need to find out what they truly want and see if there's alignment in a new version of your relationship, right? So it might be little adjustments in your business. It might be little adjustments in your career. It might be little adjustments in your relationship. Hey, if you're loving this episode, please do me a real quick favor. Give us a like down below. And then if you have future topics that you want me to cover, go ahead and comment them down below as well, so that they align with your true purpose. Because what tends to happen is you hit a level of success and then there's a glass ceiling and you're like, I can't fucking break this glass. There's no way. I can't seem to break through this glass ceiling. The reason why is because you have hit the glass ceiling, the cap of what your fake self, your unconscious life version of yourself has built. If you want it to grow and you want it to grow with a lot more ease, but also with a lot more alignment, you have to figure out what is your purpose and get aligned with that thing. And then what's crazy is it's like the glass ceiling a lot of times disappears. So if you feel like you've been stuck for a while, you've plateaued in any places in your life, most likely it's because you're out of alignment with your true self. You've unconsciously built this life. Well, now we need to reassess and start to consciously build. And you might be like, well, I'm 45 years old, Rob. I've built this life. You're 45. Who cares? If, my grandparents lived to 95, 96. Let's say you live that long. You still have another 50 years. You're going to live 50 more years out of alignment because you've built a life over the past 45 years that isn't in alignment? No, you need to make a change. And it's not immediate. It's never immediate. Awarenesses are going to keep popping up. You're going to start finding more pieces to your purpose, more things. And often that really what it comes down to is when there's certain pieces missing and you feel like you're plateaued, you might have success, you might have money, you might have a great job, all of this stuff, but there's just a piece of you that's like, this doesn't feel right. And I've been there before. I know what it feels like to sit in my car and be like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, this just doesn't feel right. You need to make adjustments in order to level up and break through to the next level. And then what you really need to do is ask yourself, what do you want? Start figuring out what that is. And you need to create a plan for authentic living. And you need to actually have a real plan for authentically living for what it is that you want. It feels so much better to live a fully authentic life, to figure out who you are deep down at your core and what it is you need to do to live the rest of your life in alignment. And it sounds daunting, and to be honest with you, it is, if it's something that you just do on your own. Like, it's a lot of different things you have to go through. But I don't know about you. I would much rather live a life that feels good, that feels like I'm doing something great in this world, that feels like I'm helping people, that feels like it's in alignment with my true self. And you get onto this new path of mastery, and mastering yourself and mastering the life that you really want. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably the type of person who wants to master themselves. But if you're not sure who you truly are, then you're trying to master a version of yourself, which is not who you truly are. It's like building a ladder up the wrong wall, right? It's like you're going up the wrong wall. So it's like if you're trying to master yourself right now, but you don't know your true self, you don't know your true purpose, how are you going to master yourself? And really what it comes down to is like, wouldn't it just feel good to build a life that feels good? Like that feels good, that feels right, that feels free. And in that alignment, you can achieve. And achieving from that place is what feels good. And achieving from that place of alignment is what creates freedom. And so when you're looking at your life, when you're achieving and you're aligned, that's how you create freedom. When you're aligned and you're achieving in your life from a place of alignment, that's where you feel free. That's where you can accomplish from a great place versus a wounded place or an unconscious place. And really what I think it comes down to for people is we compromise a lot in our lives. We compromise relationships, we compromise our bank accounts, we compromise our business, we compromise our jobs, we compromise pieces of ourselves in order to make things okay and to not rock the boat too much. We have to get to a point where there's no more compromising in your life. You know, it's time to get real on like actually who you are, what you want to get out of life. And then you go and you get it. And that's exactly what you're here to do. You know, like what I have found is that society doesn't really want people to be fully authentic. They don't really want you to be like your highest potential. And so what we tend to do is because of that, because a lot of people are living so unconsciously, when we start trying to step into a place of being conscious and creating from that place, it can trigger people around you. Sometimes it does. And that's okay, because that's when somebody's triggered, that is their problem. That's something they need to work through. Same thing that when I always say on this podcast, when you're triggered, that is something that you need to work through. But if you're going to keep, I don't know about you, but living a life where I'm pretending to be someone else and pretending to be okay with not having what I want and not being in alignment, to not rock the boat for other people doesn't feel really good to me. Because I don't know what happens after I die. You know, there's books that say it does this thing or this thing. Maybe I go to another place. Maybe I relive another life. Maybe I just become warm food. I don't know. But as far as I know, I do have this life and I am here. And with this life, I don't want to be somebody else for other people. I want to be myself and attract the right people from there. And so, you know, a lot of us, we wake up at a certain point in time. This is why I think people go through a midlife crisis, because they wake up at a point and they're like, who the fuck am I? And then you realize that you are a lot of times who you had to be in order to meet your needs and in order to meet other people's needs as well. But at a certain point, you have to realize, like, we just got to stop compromising our authentic selves. We've been compromising our authentic selves for way too long. And it's time to stop that. It's time to identify, like, who am I truly? What do I truly want? What do I believe? Like, not what are the beliefs and the values that were taught to me, because we were all taught beliefs and values from other people. But if we take a step back and be like, what are my beliefs? What are my values? What do I truly believe in? And then actually write down a plan and create a path for what the rest of our lives are going to be like. That's what it really comes down to. And that's what you really want to start to create. I think the greatest journey that somebody can go on is a path of rediscovering who they are, because we get lost along the way. Like when you were born, you were the truest version of yourself. And then at some point in time, we all break away and we become someone that we have to be in order to fit in with society, with our parents. We do what we're told to do. And hopefully at some point in time, if you're listening to this podcast, you've already gone through this. You wake up and you're like, I don't know if this is who I am. Like, I need to improve myself. I need to grow. I need to be better. All of this stuff. Really what it comes down to is you taking a pen and paper and asking yourself, who am I? What do I want from my life? What do I want to be? What feels most in alignment in my life? And then what parts of my life don't feel in alignment? And starting to go from there, work from there. So if you're one of the people and you're like, hey, this sounds awesome, just so you guys know, because I wanted to make this podcast episode to really help you realign. I actually have an event where we're going to be talking about this. By the time you hear this, it might be sold out. There's only 100 tickets to be there, where we're going to actually be covering all of this stuff. And we're going to talk about your purpose, your true self, and creating a path to fulfillment. It's called Fulfillment Framework. It's going to be in Austin, Texas. If you want to learn more about it, all you have to do is just go to fulfillment2023.com. So once again, fulfillment2023.com. Once again, You can learn more about it there. There's a video that explains everything. Whether you come to the event or don't come to the event, what I really want from you, though, is for you to figure out who you are, what you want, what feels most alignment in your life, and start living from that place of alignment. So that's what I would do if I were you. Start figuring that out, and I promise you, it's not the easiest path, but it is the path that will bring the greatest joy in your life. So that's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on Instagram stories and tag me in it. Rob Dial, ROBDIALJR on Instagram. Once again, if you want to learn more about the event, all you have to do is just go to fulfillment2023.com to learn about the Fulfillment Framework event that's happening in August. And with that, I'm going to leave the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make somebody else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day.